Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
Not a good weekend. Same as the last race where I was at. I was there in person.
You saw
to see a DNF and last place. So, in wearing McLaren gear, look like an employee. I look like an employee there. and obviously, do you know what? I feel like everybody's got an outside view about what's going on at McLaren and so on. But when the way they communicate with the fans and the way they've actually been quite open with the situation that, listen, we're not where we want to be right now. And that's because we don't have the infrastructure in place to be competing with everybody else. And they've been quite open that this car's not going to be the car that we're moving forward with, working into the season. You could see how glum and sad everybody was at our launch. It was like Vic Star trying to hype people up, and I was just like, nobody's should have given.
I was there for the look.
How was that for you? Yeah,
it was because I said this before. Like, they had to film the bit with Zach and Andrea twice. So him saying like the car's not, he said that twice. So it was like rehearsed, like in terms of they knew what they were going to say.
Yeah. So there was a reason that they were saying it. It was because they wanted to temper expectations.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think they are a real team, which is nice. It's refreshing, and I guess because the expectations haven't been super high, the idea of them being towards the bottom isn't massively. But then you think about it, and like, well, 2020 they were quicker than Ferrari; they were the quickest car, and then it becomes a bit more of a okay. So what is the trajectory? What is this momentum that we talk about with sports teams, F1 teams included?
So for me, I feel like maybe those years kind of hampered McLaren's view, everybody's view of McLaren and what their trajectory is, because at the end of the day, I think they've been quite open. I remember Zach saying, look, in new regs, we're going to be up there again and so on. And that was dependent on the factory and the wind tunnel and all the simulator getting sorted out. That got delayed because of COVID. And that's not been coming out. So they've had to push back expert targets to 2024 and 2026. So 2024 is
and they had big
winning
financial
races.
issues as well, didn't they?
Big financial issues during COVID. They had to lay off a lot of staff as well.
Sold the MTC. So we're talking about a team that was trying to get money in one door while everything's flung out the other door and having lots of different issues that a lot of the other teams don't really have. But it's about what their recovery is and what their stage is. And I think they've been quite open about, okay, look, the target's changed. We're aiming for 2024 to be competing for race wins. We're aiming for 2026 to be competing for championships. Their targets is not, let's just stay in the midfield. Those years where we were beating McLaren, beating Ferrari in 2020 and so on, that's more due to Ferrari's failures than anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of said, oh, look what McLaren are doing. But I feel like McLaren were overachieving anyway because they built those cars without having their own wind tunnel, without having all those disadvantages. So
Aston Martin have built this car while using Mercedes wind tunnel.
Exactly.
So having your own wind tunnel is not Alpine got their own wind tunnel.
Well, technically, no. Aston do have the wind tunnel. We've seen the outside of it, haven't we?
Yeah, but they use Mercedes.
They use Mercedes at the moment.
They use Mercedes.
But I feel
it's
like
not
even
their wind tunnel.
That's a logistical benefit for them because the wind tunnel's in England.
Yeah.
McLaren's one's
It's
abroad.
Stuttgart, isn't it? Or something?
It's in Cologne at the moment. It's the Toyota wind tunnel. So when you get an upgrade, you have to wait for it to actually be transported back and so on. So there's a lot of difficulties at the moment. Get delivery. Get air freight something.
Stick it in the axe.
Uber Eats.
But I think with McLaren at the moment, it's really about understanding, okay, we took a step back. This 2022 car last year wasn't particularly good. They started working on the 2023 car quite early. Then there was the change of the floor heights that came quite late in the season.
Yeah.
And then once they checked the simulators, they were like, this is bad for us.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's mad? It's like we're 2 races in and we haven't really seen McLaren's pace yet. We haven't been able to.
Because reliability,
like the best ability is reliability. Like when it comes to a Formula One car.
But I mean, Oscar Q3 has to be the shining light in all this because that's the only thing I can think. Because in the races, they've both had issues in both races.
Yeah.
It seemed that he'd been it went from Oscar, getting hit from the Alpine, which wasn't his fault at all. Then that debris, obviously that damage affected his front wing. Debris then went back and it looks like it might have affected Lando, maybe giving a puncture and something affecting his floor as well. It's what I think is what's happened, being reported afterwards. But then it means both of them have to come in, change front wing, or change tyres as well. And then it's kind of like, well, then at the back of the race, yes, you have a safety car, but when you're at that point, you can hope that a strategy is going to work off, but probably not.
To be honest, the safety car made it even worse. Because then you got both the Williams, both the AlphaTauris just got a free pit stop or half free pit stop. So it was just a catalogue really of poor fortune, but.
And the car's slow in the straight. So,
God.
For Oscar to even get it into Q3, that's for me. We've got some driver talent here.
Yeah. What do you make of? I think Oscar's again. It's been really hard. It's been hard for him to really showcase what he's made of because he's had a poor car and it's had issues. Mm-hmm. What do you make of?
I've been quite impressed. I've been impressed with his kind of like maturity, his kind of professionalism in terms of the way he's approaching.
Yeah, he's very straight-laced, isn't he?
Very straight-faced, very like on it. Haven't seen like major errors where he's just crashing it, binning it, destroying the car. So he looks like he's quite close to Lando. Obviously, we don't really know yet because of the whole situations in the first two races, but he looks like he's quite comfortable in the car, and he looks like he's getting better race by race. But even though there's only been two races, because we have to remember this guy had a year out. He wasn't driving a car.
Yeah.
Especially after the contract situation, Alpine was like, you ain't doing anything there. You're on gardening leave, basically.
I don't like him.
Of course.
As a Ricciardo fan.
He's a Ricciardo regen.
And it's literally...
regen.
And it's literally just that. It's not because of anything he's done at all. Apart from the only thing he's done is replace my favourite driver. And that's the only thing. And that's literally it. And
at least you're honest.
Yeah. I have got the bias towards Ricciardo. And then, yes, Ricciardo had an awful season last season. I know, I'm not dumb. Like, I understand that. But then, obviously, doesn't even matter if it's Piastri, if it was Hülkenberg, if it was Grosjean, whoever it could have been, Nick Heidfeld. Either way, I would have not liked them purely on the basis just because they replaced it, and I replaced them. And that's my only thing. I think also in the race today as well.
No, you're more petty than me because when
really
Perez
petty.
Replaced Albon, I didn't dislike Perez.
Yeah, I'm just really petty with that.
Fair enough.
I also do feel like a burden on that because I did tweet last year that if Ricciardo got another podium, I'll get the number 3 tattooed, and then just the worst season he's ever had. I feel like I'm personally part of it. No, but I do agree though that I think Oscar's doing. I got to admit he's doing a really, really good job. Although in the race he did get passed by Lando towards the end, but then they had the little scrap back and forth, didn't they? Which
he made it back through in the end.
He made it back through in the end. Yeah, and so
and ahead of Sargent.
But it was all towards like the front, towards the first 3 corners, and that's where it got a bit close a little bit, but they didn't make any contact or anything. But
it kept it clean.
Yeah,
Will to will.
Yeah, fair
and
enough.
I think, look, ultimately, there's been so much talk around Lando Norris. He's proven he can fight for wins. Like, he could be a future world champion given the right car. If Piastri is as good as it's looking, and he's given a pretty good example of himself so far, I think. That could be an unreal driver pairing, but will McLaren get the car quick enough to give them that opportunity before they potentially lose again, maybe Lando? Because you could understand if Lando's head gets turned, surely right now. You could understand it, is whether he's got the patience with that team.
Yeah, and 100%. And I think with the situation at the moment, they kind of knew that the car was wrong quite early and started working on this B-spec car that's coming in Baku. And I think from that point, there needs to be progress in terms of moving forward with the car and actually being competitive, being there with like the Alpines and so on towards the top of the midfield. And I feel like the wind tunnel's done in June. Every single part from that point will be developed in that wind tunnel. There won't really be excuses there for Zach to be saying, okay, look,
you're right.
We need to be, we're in control of our own destiny now, apart from the engine, obviously. We need to be maximising those situations. I feel like there was an issue as well with getting the right staff in place because we lost a lot of staff. And then they realised, look, we can't fix errors because we don't have enough people in like the aero department or something. So those plugs need to be filled. If we're not competing, obviously Lando would need to be going for the sake of his career, right?
Same as what Toto's saying about Lewis, I guess. Like, if you can't be a top driver,
to McLaren and
McLaren Honda has to happen.
But Maconda, do you know what's
control their own
bad?
destiny, man.
I know people look at how McLaren's situation now and say, "Oh, this is bad." That Honda situation before was bad because we spent the same money as like Red Bull, Ferrari. And we spent like top money, and we were supposed to be winning races. We were ninth in the constructors. If that happened now, that would be like headline news, like it was that back
They need to do a special livery again, and that's how they get the podium. They need
the only way.
Bring back the Vodafone sponsorship, the Chrome.
One race only.
I know Lando's wanting it.
Of course
he said he's wanting that. Like, but it's so impractical to have like the Chrome on the car now.
We're slow anyway, so
it looks so
get
mint.
in while you're still slow, and then So get in for Australia. It will shine nicely.
Literally, it looks so mint, but it's also just so impractical for the guys who like doing all the bodywork changes and everything.
Do a Marlboro one. Let's just sack off the rules about
views. Yeah, do like a Marlboro livery style, but then instead of the Marlboro one, have the views?
The
vaping brand.
Vape brands. Okay, interesting. We'll see.
That seems mad, actually. Hang on a second. How can you ban cigarette companies, but then you've got a vape?
One gives cancer and one doesn't.
Doesn't matter. We need West to come back with vaping.
It's not as bad. Vaping's not as bad, I guess. But
lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Tastes like watermelon as well.